Kirsten Liebelt, good to see you. It's Friday night. Friday night. I'm supposed to yell, right? It's Friday night. It's very exciting. Good to see you guys. I'm so glad to jump on and spend a few minutes with you tonight. How are you doing? Oh, thanks for all the hearts. You guys are awesome. Thank you. All right, so Friday night, I'm very excited. So, all right, y'all know my content comes from conversations. Whatever I'm talking about with people, then I think to myself, okay, I know that because I am super passionate, right? I'm super opinionated and I'm super passionate. I'm sure that has nothing to do with being Italian at all. I'm sure that that's just normal, right? And so I was recently chatting with somebody about very specifically the fact that I eat grain free. I'm totally grain free. And we were talking about that in terms of the impact of grain and insulin resistance, because I feel like, again, we have so many confused mindsets that are given to us because of marketing, because of the morning talk shows, because of people even similar like me, meaning like I'm super passionate about the way that I live, so I share the way that I live to help people. But then somebody else might be super passionate about another thought process, right? And so we have to find our lane, we have to find what resonates with us, and we have to find what is positively affecting our bodies the most so that we can move forward, right? Like that's the whole idea. So talking about grain and how it is impacting insulin resistance, I think is a major league important conversation to have, okay? Because I feel like there's some confusion around it. So that's what we're going to chat about tonight. Let me know if you are grain free. I'm going to try to fix my thing over here because I'm going to go live on TikTok, sweetie. Carrie? Hey, Carrie. He can't hear me. That's interesting. So I'm going to go. Hey, Carrie. Yeah. What? I'm going to go live on TikTok. Okay, perfect. He did hear me. He did hear me. Isn't he good? We've been married for 36 years. Like, he is such a helper. Okay, so anyway, so if you can't imagine eating grain again, Julie, you are my girl. You're my girl, Julie. I know. And you guys, nobody is more shocked than I am. Nobody. Think about this. Raised Italian, raised on pasta, raised on bread, raised on everything white. Raised my family then on everything white, everything sugar. And so nobody's more surprised than I am when I tell you how, I'm living a grain-free life, right? So that conversation about grain and insulin resistance is a really big one. But I'm going to give you just a couple of front points on being grain free and how it can be beneficial, because I just want, you haven't had grain in a few years. That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I know. And I'm okay. You don't eat grain, Julie. You don't eat grain. I don't know your name, but you don't. Oh, is that Miriam? Is that Miriam? Miriam, you haven't had grain in a few years. Okay. So doesn't that automatically make you feel better? Aren't you shocked by how good you feel? Like, I don't ache. I don't ache. And it just has completely changed my life. Okay, I'm going to go back here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to read. If I don't, I'll try to see your guys' comments. This keeps on falling down. I'll try to see your guys' comments, but if I miss them, I apologize. Okay, so let me go back here, and I'm going to go into, so remember now, my dad was type 2 diabetic. He died at 63. I was raised by an insulin dependent dad. I did not do anything about my foods for like a very long time after he died. I was 30 when he died. I didn't do anything, about nothing until at least 15 years after he died. I should have, because there are so many reasons, I talk about the fact that he had all the heart issues. He had the kidney dialysis issues. He was on a kidney transplant list. He, all of the things. And I was gestational with my first baby, hypoglycemic with my second baby. Like, I should have been paying attention, and I didn't. And I just kept on my merry little way because I really did believe that there was this component in the back of my head. I'm thinking, well, it's genetic, que sera, sera. What is it? Whatever it's going to be, right? And I was really wrong for sure, but I didn't really know that. Okay, so I'm on my merry way, and then I finally do change things out in my 40s to pacify my mom, and I started to take targeted supplements to tell her I'm doing something. Here, mom, look at me. I'm doing something, whatever. I didn't know it was going to work. I didn't know anything was going to work. But in my 50s, and when I started to trade out my foods, like for real, that doesn't seem right. Okay, for real, I didn't think I could trade out my foods, you guys. I mean, you guys are saying that you're grain-free. You've been grain-free for a few years. Did it freak you out? I'd love to know if it freaked anybody out. Sandy, nice to meet you. I'm 59 now. I'm 59, and I'm the only one in my family to have avoided type 2. My dad took the path of supplementation, of medication. He had a lazy Susan full of meds when he died. I remember sleeping at their house. We were home on vacation with our kids because we were living out in the Black Hills of South Dakota. And we came home for a week, and my kids were 6, 3, and 6 months old. And my dad was 100% Italian, so it was their Italian grandpa. And we get there on Monday. He dies on Friday morning after a dialysis session. And Saturday morning, I wake up, and of course, my mother's upset. She's 65. He was 63. And I just remember walking out into the kitchen, and she was crying, and she was saying, why did I spend so much time complaining about his medicine being in the way? Why did I spend time complaining? And I'm like, Mom, it's okay. Like, I understood in that moment that, we don't know these things, right? Nobody knew he was going to die that day. Anyway, but there was something about that moment in time. It imprinted my brain a little bit, and it caused me to go back to that memory and say, wait a minute. If he was on all of those meds, those amazing 21st century medications, why is he gone? Weren't they supposed to heal him? And I've talked about this before too, but that's where that memory comes from for me. They were supposed to heal him. They were supposed to reverse it. They were supposed to. None of that's true. So that launched me into this journey. That's why I talk about things that I've done now for over a decade. The grain-free is not a decade, but it is years, probably 5 to 6 years that I've been grain-free, maybe 5. But when I started targeted supplementation for my insulin resistance, that has been over a decade. So I love sharing things that are they've been long-term effects and benefits. And now I get to share the testimonies of other people. So anyway, okay, let's make sure I'm not missing anything here. It does freak you out, Julie. Share Bear. Okay, hold on. Miriam, no, I just eat eggs for breakfast and meat and vegetables, no bread. Beautiful. Oh, so good. Okay, endocrinologist says, don't eat pasta, bread, corn. Wow, you have a good endocrinologist. But your cardiologist says, whole wheat, whole grains, fruits, and veggies. You're so confused. Okay, then we're going to just get into this, and then you can make your own decisions. How does that sound? I'm very opinionated because I'm grain-free, but I'll just tell you some of the information, and then you can figure it out for yourself. Okay, and I want to make sure, and if you follow me on TikTok, thank you so much. And if you're sharing, thank you so much. And if you're giving me lots of hearts and all that good stuff to get out on the FYP, I so appreciate you. Pam, thank you for the follow. So if I don't see you, I'm not trying to ignore you at all. I really am not. I really love the TikTok community very, very much. Okay, so these are just some of the reasons why grains could be a potential negative on anybody, and then we'll get into the sugar reason. Okay, so if you become grain-free, if you choose to live a grain-free life like I have, reduced inflammation, improved digestive health. A lot of people have major digestive issues with grain. Balanced blood sugar, that's the one we're going to come back to. Weight management, Eliminating grains can lead to a lower intake of refined carbohydrates and processed food, which may aid in weight loss or weight management efforts. Better gut health. That kind of goes back to the digestion. I don't know why this does that. Sorry about that, you guys. Reduced risk of gluten-related disorders. It's kind of an automatic, right? Increased energy levels. Improved skin health. I definitely feel like because I'm grain-free, sugar-free, that's a big bonus. Enhanced mental clarity. I've actually done a reel on that at one time, talking about how grains, because if they are interrupting your gut health, can be affecting then your mental health, because there's a connection. And potential allergy relief. Grains, especially gluten-containing ones like wheat, barley, and rye, are common allergens. Removing grains from the diet can alleviate symptoms of grain-related allergies in susceptible individuals. Okay, so that's the overarching conversation. Now let's get down to like you're insulin resistant. This is what I talk about, you guys, right? So once you're insulin resistant, your path is just different. It's just the way that it is. But it's not something to be upset about. It's not something to feel like now you have to live in deprivation land. This is my opinion, of course. It's not something that you have to be like, oh man, like now I'm screwed. No, that's not how this goes at all. As a matter of fact, this actually just gets you to be on a path where you can finally get results. Because once you know that it's insulin, the hormone that is keeping you from losing weight, and then you get to have a key to help you figure this out, voila, your world opens up. All of a sudden, things make so much more sense, and you are able to actually make progress and move forward. And you're like, okay, I'm not sitting here spinning and spinning and spinning going, but I used to be able to count points, but I used to be able to live in a calorie deficit only, and I used to be able to do this, and I used to be able to do that, and blah, blah, blah. And now the 30-year-olds on TikTok are telling me to do this, and like she said, one doctor is telling me this and another doctor is telling me that. Why does she have an endocrinologist telling her one thing and a cardiologist telling her another? Like, seriously? Why is this, right? So it can be very frustrating, right? So I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. I don't think I am. Hello, Sherry. Good to see you. Okay. And so this is where we kind of, where it meets, the rubber meets the road, so to speak, and we get a little frustrated, right? So when your insulin and or your sugars are high, you're stuck and you can't lose weight. And I love the way Dr. Eric Berg says it. When your insulin is high, it nullifies, it cancels out every other fat burning hormone. Wouldn't you have wanted to know that, like in your 30s? Like, I was so disconnected from my body. I was so disconnected from understanding any of these pieces. Like, okay, so getting your insulin down is really, really important. Getting your sugars down is really, really important. And when you do, what happens then is you lower the inflammation in your body, number one. And number two, what happens is when you're insulin resistant, your cell has shut the door. The door is shut on your cell. And so as your pancreas is making insulin, it's trying to get insulin into your cell to take your glucose, the food that you're eating, and put it into the shell and shove it in there for energy. It can't do it because your cell went, I don't think so, Buster. I've had enough insulin. I'm done. My door is closed. I know it's being weird. Are you trying to adjust that? Thank you. And so it says no more. But what happens though is that your pancreas goes, I need to be making more insulin. I'm not making enough insulin. So your pancreas makes more and more and more. So then now you have high insulin levels, high inflammation. It's nullifying your other fat burning hormones. And now that after time, for me, it was like 20 years, then your sugars show up in your blood. You can be insulin resistant for a very, very, very long time, but they're taking blood glucose levels. They're not doing fasting insulin tests in a generalization conversation, because I'm not a doctor and I'm not a lab technician. But in general, that's what I'm hearing from people saying they're not having their fasting insulin taken. They're having blood glucose taken. They're being told that their blood glucose is fine until it's not. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I thought I was fine. You kept telling me I was fine. I kept coming back. and then they're not. Okay, so that's kind of how that goes. All right. So when we're talking about the foods that we eat, and this is how I love to view food now, because I changed out one ingredient at a time. I changed out one recipe at a time, and I chose to go on my own journey. Now, I'm 59 now. I started this journey probably really close to about 51. It took me a few years to really kind of, because I did this by myself, so to speak. Like I didn't have, there was nobody on TikTok to chat with. There was nobody kind of around my world to talk about any of this with. And so basically I did it on my own, and I wanted to assess my own like feelings about stuff. Does that make sense to anybody? Like, has anybody else taken the time to actually like assess your own food habits, your own food triggers, your own those types of things? That's kind of what I've had to do, and it's been very beneficial. Okay. So I'm trading out my foods and all of that stuff. And now what I understand is, number one, you can still be a total foodie. You can still love food. I was raised with some of the best food around. So for me, that is like a really big deal. Like I didn't have to give that up after all. But number two, what I really feel like I understand now is that um, there's a lot of marketing that keeps us eating stupid food. And so if we're not running around with continuous glucose monitors on our arms, we actually don't really quite understand what's spiking our sugar so bad. We kind of, and it's because they do things like they sell you keto bread. It's really, really sad. The marketing is really bad. And keto treats and keto everything, and they say everything is really good. Julie says a hotshot endocrinologist in Nashville told me she has tested for resting glucose rate for 20 years. When I asked, I fired her. That's another conversation. If you do not, I'm going to do a little side, and then we're going to keep going. When 2020 came, my mom, 94, dementia. My sister and I had been taking care of her, even though she was living in she literally had just moved into assisted living, but for a few years she had been in independent living. Just moves into assisted living within like 2 weeks before the shutdown. And basically there was already a camera in her room because we were her caretakers as she was, if she falls, nobody's going to know, because she wasn't in a nursing home where there's people there all the time. So we kind of watch like literally her depression set in on the camera. Like, it's terrible. Like, what happened to the elderly, that's a whole nother conversation. But what happens then is she starts to decline. And within about 7 weeks, I said to my sister, yeah, this isn't going to work, and we're taking her out. And everybody's like, can you do that? Can you take her out? And I said, well, what do you mean? We're the consumer. We're paying. Like, but do you understand how far we've gotten away from that? I mean, for you to say that you fired your endocrinologist, most people aren't doing that. Most people are like, oh, but the doctor said, and the doctor said, and it's like, don't get me wrong, because I'm not a doctor. I'm just an Italian girl who figured this out. It's literally all I am. And I'm somebody who loves to study the things that I love to study because of the type 2 diabetes, heart disease and heart surgeries and dialysis, and then dementia. And I've had all of this life of everything that's connected to insulin resistance. It kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And then I found out that nobody knew anything about it, just like I didn't know anything about it. And I'm like, you kind of can't shut me up. She hasn't tested for resting glucose rates. Can you believe it? Yeah, that's really, that's a little surprising. I don't know what to say about that. But anyway, I'm glad you fired her though. Anyway, you're so funny. We're busy living life and eating healthy isn't cheap. Well, you know what though? I'm going to kind of take people to task about that just a tiny bit. Only in the sense that you have to understand that grain-free in my house literally means we don't buy processed food. I just don't. Now, it took me a while to get there, right? I didn't even know that that was my goal. Like, I wasn't trying to become any kind of a granola person. I just was tweaking and tweaking until, like, oh, okay, this is how you burn fat off your body. Okay, this is how you feel amazing. This is how you don't ache and you can get on the floor with your grandbabies. Oh, okay, that's kind of how I did it. Everything was a little accidental. So, like, even tonight, now I was talking in my stories on IG Bookface. I was talking about how we had shrimp from Costco. Well, I don't know if I made that happen or if somebody else made that happen, but that was really fun. On TikTok, they had a little thing on my head. Anyway, but a bag of shrimp from Costco, and it was $21. We ate half of that. And we made a cream sauce with cream and Parmesan and garlic powder, onion powder, blah blah blah. And so for $10 worth of shrimp, my husband and I basically had a restaurant meal that would have easily cost us $50. Well, like, I don't know how much cheaper you get than that, especially when there's no money going into anything that's processed. There are no chips. There is no cereal. Do you know that cereal per pound is more expensive, hands down, by far, than a pound of ground beef? It's much cheaper to eat a pound of ground beef. For someone with many health issues, I have fired many doctors. You must read and educate yourself. Yes, it is your body and your life plus your money. Amen. Have I ever tried intermittent fasting? Sort of, not religiously. I feel like intermittent fasting has a lot of benefits. I'm not confused about it. I've listened to a lot of different doctors on it. And so I know that I kind of give a vague response to it only because my life has definitely been one of assessing what I want my body to do and how I want my body to function. And I want other people to do that for themselves. But there are definite benefits. I think that there's a part of me that sometimes does choose intermittent fasting only based on, like, I wake up and I'm just not hungry. So I'm not going to break my fast and eat good protein until I'm hungry. And so, yeah, I know that's a vague answer, but I guess I don't want anything to be given as like that's a secret, because I feel like there are many factors, but they're really not rocket science factors. And so if somebody feels like they're too addicted to food to intermittent fast right away, I don't want that to keep them from making progress. That's kind of a little piece of that too. But anyway, okay, so I'm going to actually read you now specifically grains and insulin resistance. Okay, so let's do that. So this is 10 different ways that grains can influence insulin resistance. And so this is where I want people to hear, because people will say, but I'm eating keto bread. It's not good enough. Gluten-free bread is not good enough. Not when you're insulin resistant. Homemade sourdough bread is not good enough. If you had a glucose meter and you could see how it was going to spike your sugars, if you could get that understanding, don't just listen to third-party people. Find people who are testing their sugars with this stuff. They've got them on TikTok everywhere, where they can tell you how high they're spiking and how they wish that starch-resistant, whatever, rice in the freezer would have worked. And there's just a lot of theories that go on out there. And I always blame it on like morning news. That's really, I only use that in terms of like, that's kind of like we use that as our little newspaper. Well, I heard this and I heard this, but we really need to understand what you put into your mouth. Ask yourself, is this going to spike my sugars? Because you have to stop the cycle of the pickle that got you where are my words? Hold on. Into the problem to begin with. I think that's what I want to say. I started with targeted supplementation. That's the trio. I talk about it all the time. That's on my website. You can always put trio in the comments, or TikTok, you can go text trio to the number that's on my profile. But that's where I started. And that's where all the testimonies come of the sugars coming down and the weight starting to get lost. Okay, that's perfect. But then when you go to change your foods, if you are going to live your life as an insulin resistant person, based on the marketing of the products, you're going to be very, very sad because you're going to be like, that keto thing doesn't work. Well, actually, it works really, really well. It just doesn't work according to if they're trying to make a profit off of their products as corporations, because they're selling you a lie. Okay. I'd say I get so opinionated. Okay, hold on. I'm going to read this to you though. Number 1, high glycemic index. Many grains, especially refined grains like white bread and rice. Now remember, let's just talk about the keto bread at Aldi's. Let's just talk about that for a second, because I really think that there are a lot of people that think that that's okay, and they don't know that they're literally sabotaging themselves every time. They're literally swamping themselves, and they don't understand why then they can't lose a pound. They can't make any progress. And it's because you might be eating something that you think is okay. So that would be refined grains like white bread and rice have a high glycemic index, meaning they cause a rapid spike in blood sugar levels. Frequent consumption of high glycemic foods can contribute to insulin resistance over time. Okay, so we're just assuming that everybody here on all the different platforms that you're already insulin resistant, or you suspect that you are. Okay, so now remember, you're going to change your path, but you're going to learn how to love the foods that you're eating. You're going to change out the ingredients to the foods that you very specifically love. Okay, there is a trade out for everything. There's nothing that doesn't have a trade out. I'm so convinced. Number 2, gluten and inflammation. For individuals that are sensitive to gluten, found in wheat, barley, and rye, consuming gluten-containing grains can trigger inflammation in the body. Now let's go back to the cardiologist, because I'm sorry, but a cardiologist should know that inflammation is like the base of heart disease. Like this is ridiculous that we're not addressing inflammation in the body. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just really opinionated. It's just really listen, we've done it all. I've done it all. I've done the heart disease with my dad. I did the renal cancer with my mom. I did the dialysis with my dad. All the things that they told us not to do. Anyway, number 3, lectins and gut health. Grains contain compounds called lectins, which can interfere with gut health by damaging the lining of the intestines and disrupting the balance of the gut bacteria. Poor gut health is associated with insulin resistance and metabolic dysfunction. Did you know that poor gut health was connected to insulin resistance? I find that to be very stunning. So lectins are compounds that interfere with gut health. They damage the lining. Okay, so that all by itself. And if you're messing up your gut, so anytime somebody, like if you go, the probiotic that I take is like a 5-strain probiotic, and then it has a prebiotic in it. It's a little powder stick. If you start to get your gut healthy, you will be shocked at how that can benefit your brain, your mind, your anxiety, your depression. Like your gut matters so much. And so what I was talking about with somebody just recently was, when somebody is trying to heal their system, grains are not a healing food. Okay, so bone broth is a healing food. Meat is actually very healing. There are many, many people who are they are carnivore for the purpose of turning back autoimmune. Now, that I have not studied in fullness at all. I just know about it. I know that Dr. Kiltz, he's a fertility specialist out of New York. He uses carnivore to help women get rid of their PCOS so that they can get pregnant, things like that. And actually, meat is extraordinarily bioavailable into our systems. And so all of the nutrients, it's very dense in nutrients. It can actually get into our systems really well, as opposed to grains, and our bodies have such a hard time breaking down grains. All right, so hold on. Number 4, phytic acid and mineral absorption. Phytic acid present in the outer layer of grains can bind to minerals like magnesium, calcium, and zinc, reducing their absorption in the body. Mineral deficiencies may impair insulin sensitivity and contribute to insulin resistance. I do talk a lot about mineral deficiencies, and this is why. In fact, I talked about it in my stories just tonight a little bit, because I didn't know pretty much most of my life that mineral deficiencies can cause, put it this way, that if you fill in the gap of mineral deficiencies, you can make your insulin resistance and bring down your sugars, or turn back, the path of type 2 way easier. So what happened for me in waking up to this understanding was a couple of different things. Number one is, so again, I'll go back and I'll talk about the trio for just a second. Those are 3 supplements that have 3 ingredients that help with insulin sensitivity. And just as a piece of housekeeping, because what are we? We are on Friday, April 12th. If somebody's ordering the trio and the glucose product, if it is out of stock where you live in the United States, I believe it's in stock in Canada, please message me, because I have inventory. So I help people fill that third hole for their trio, and I ship it out to you. So that's the housekeeping. So moving on though, those ingredients that are helping with insulin sensitivity, some of them are minerals, and trace minerals, when you are deficient and you fix them, because our soil is so deficient. And just think about how even simple things like, we moved from table salt, which is trash, I get it, but it had iodine in it. And we stopped using that now for kind of a long time, right? We've moved to sea salt that doesn't have iodine in it. And so when you are iodine deficient, that can be a piece of the puzzle to thyroid. That can be a piece of the puzzle to a lot of different, things like that. Well, it's the same thing with type 2 and insulin resistance. So those trace minerals, that's why they make such a difference. That's why the results come in on the trio for people to, my morning sugars drop by 30 points, and again, never any claims ever. I take in data from people who are finally getting answers for themselves. And again, the only person who can actually drop trio is on Facebook and YouTube. Sorry, you guys, you have to DM me or whatever, text me. But anyway, and so having said that, when you, for instance, now the multivitamin, multimineral, and phytonutrient that I take twice a day, that is super, super potent, right? High level. That, when a friend of mine's dad started taking that twice a day, he had a hard time getting his A1C to come and check for over 10 years. And he couldn't get it to come into range. And he decides he's going to start taking this high level multivitamin, multimineral, and phytonutrient, all of them. And within 4 months of consistency, his A1C came down into range for the first time in over 10 years. And then he went on to lose over 50 pounds. Now, why did that happen? I'm convinced that had he been able to have mineral tests, he would have found out that he had been deficient in certain minerals and he didn't know it. And then let's go back to that conversation. If your insulin and or your sugars are high, you're stuck. You're stuck and you can't lose weight. So I always say this, I'm convinced that women are sliding into their 40s. They're insulin resistant. They do not know it. I didn't know it. They don't know that this is why they can't lose weight, why they're gaining more weight. They don't understand, because all that extra insulin, guess what insulin is called? If you've listened to any of my content, you know this answer. But do you know what insulin is called? I want to see if I'm missing anything here. Insulin is a fat storing hormone. So if we have high insulin, we're constantly storing fat because your pancreas is going to keep making more insulin. And so it's like, this is what I do. This is what I do. Does that make sense? This is crazy, right? So having said that, that's why he then went on to lose I think it might have been 54 pounds. Sometimes I never want to misspeak numbers, but whatever. I think it was 54. Because he got his insulin and his sugars down, or he started to bring things into range. Anyway, okay, so that was phytic acid and mineral absorption. Number 5, imbalanced omega-6 to omega-3 ratios. Grains, particularly those used in processed foods and vegetable oils, such as corn and soybean oil, contribute to an imbalanced ratio of omega-6 and omega-3 because all the vegetable oils they are 6. They're the inflammatories in the diet. An excessive intake of omega-6 fatty acids, which is easy to do because seed oils are literally in everything, relative to omega-3s can promote inflammation and insulin resistance. So that's why taking really good fish oils, and just like I was talking about the shrimp tonight, find wild caught. You want your supplement to actually be wild caught. You don't want it to be farm raised supplement because you don't want concentrated forms of bad fish, of tainted. Sorry about that. I feel like that keeps coming down just a little bit. And so anyway, so what I take is wild caught. Okay. Disruption of gut microbiota. Grains, especially those containing gluten, we already know that part, and high levels of carbohydrates, which that's what they are, can alter the composition of gut bacteria. And an imbalanced gut has been connected to insulin resistance. Endocrine disruption. Some grains, particularly those that are heavily processed, may contain additives, preservatives, or pesticides that can disrupt hormone regulation. Endocrine disruption can affect insulin sensitivity and contribute to insulin resistance. When grains are cooked at high temperatures or processed, they can form advanced glycation end products, AGEs. High levels of AGEs in the diet are associated with insulin resistance and oxidative stress in the body. I think this is number 9, leptin resistance. Grains, especially refined grains and sugary foods, can contribute to leptin resistance. Leptin is a hormone. So, man, you guys, this is all hormones. Stress hormone, cortisol, insulin, your sugar hormone, leptin, another hormone that regulates appetite and metabolism. And resistance to it affects and can lead to overeating, weight gain, and insulin resistance. And so grains contribute to that. So it's not just being insulin resistant, it's now being leptin resistant. So grains are just a really bad idea when you're insulin resistant. And don't get me wrong, I always say, listen, I traded out my foods a little at a time. I'm Italian. I had the best of the best served to me on a silver platter my entire growing up years. We had the most amazing family gatherings. We had the most amazing holidays. We had the most amazing food at every funeral and wedding, right? Like, it was always amazing. And so it took me some time. So nobody understands that maybe more than somebody that comes from a culture where food is really used for celebration and mourning both. And so I never want to jump down somebody's throat about that. I just want you to know that it's possible that the benefits are going to be more than you think that they're going to be, and that in the end, it's actually not as hard as you think. And I'll give you an example of that in just a second. Excessive fructose content. This is the last one on that. Some grains, particularly those high in refined sugars or processed into sweetened products, contain high levels of fructose. Excessive fructose consumption has been linked to insulin resistance, fatty liver disease. That's a big one. We did fatty liver the other night, and metabolic syndrome. These factors collectively highlight the complex ways in which grains can influence insulin resistance and metabolic health, underscoring the importance of considering overall dietary patterns and individual tolerance levels when making dietary choices. Okay, so basically, one of the things that I learned along the way when I started to trade out my ingredients and my foods was I came across a lot of Maria Emmerich. Do you guys know who Maria Emmerich is? Let me know in the comments if you know who she is. She's been a keto educator for like 30 years. I'm from Minnesota. Tell me where you're coming in from on the replay. I forgot to tell that. Forgot to say that. Tell me where you're coming in from. I'm from Minnesota. She's actually from Wisconsin, but she's this really, really creative person who has gives you really good tips and tricks on how to like trade out ingredients. So one of her really great ideas is when you're making a keto lasagna, and if you're like a lasagna person like I am, thank you so much for the hearts, you guys. I so appreciate you more than you know. Thank you so much. They when you're making lasagna and Italian, you kind of like lasagna. The truth is that when you're building a lasagna with your ricotta cheese and your mozzarella and your sauce and your Italian sausage, like who loves lasagna? Let me know that. The truth is that when you slice into a piece of lasagna, it's not the noodle you're wanting to eat, is it? It's not the noodle. It's actually all of the yummy food that's in between the noodles. So she says, go and get deli sliced chicken meat and use that as your layers. I actually will go to like the deli and have them slice a good chicken deli meat in on a number 2. Like they have a slicer, right? So they'll do like a number 2. And so it's got a little bit of thickness to it, but not too much. And use that for layering instead of pasta noodles. I am telling you, every single person who actually believes that this could work, that tries it, they're like, are you kidding me? I had somebody in the Facebook group. That's another thing that I haven't mentioned. So thanks for the hearts. You guys are amazing. There's a Facebook group on my site here. On the top of my profile is my link. And you can always put group. You guys can put group down, and I'll tell you how to get into the group. I'll get you a direct link into the group, and then you guys, it's on the profile, or yeah, it's on the profile. And there's a blue book face button. I have to say that for TikTok, but you can get in there, and it's called Ditch Insulin Resistance for Women. And I do a challenge in there every month, etc. But somebody in there said she couldn't believe she finally tried that keto lasagna. And her husband was like, whoa, that is so good. And she's like, you're right. You don't miss the noodle. And I'm like, I know. You don't miss the noodle because that's not why you were digging into all the goodness. Julie, stop it. Do you know that I used coconut cream tonight? No, it was coconut milk in my in a sauce that I made tonight. Oklahoma. That's wonderful. Just drove through Oklahoma last July. Julie, you're funny. I really do crave that. I made a coconut cream pie. It's a keto coconut cream pie for Easter. Oh my gosh, it was so good. I crave that. It's actually why I put coconut milk in my sauce tonight, because I'm like, I'm craving coconut. I bet I'm missing people saying things. I apologize. If you've asked something and I've missed it, please re-ask. I apologize. North Carolina, good to see you. North Carolina is beautiful. Toronto, I love my Canadian customers. You guys are amazing. I do have Canadian links for y'all. You have to have a special link for Toronto. It's really interesting because they're the trio that I talk about. I talk about a lot of supplementation. Supplementation has changed my life. I'm 59 and I'm not on meds. So if you need anything about vitamin D that's sourced from mushrooms, or it's only 33 cents a day, or you need a good fish oil that's wild caught fish, or you want to know about the trio for the insulin sensitivity, etc., I'm your girl. But other countries can't get a lot of the same ingredients, but I can sell in Canada the trio, and that makes me happy because I have a lot of people from Australia that really would like to buy it, and they can't because their government has different regulations and stuff like that. So East or West, you love the beach. Well, let me see now. We flew into Charlotte, Raleigh. We flew into Raleigh. So you tell me, where's that? That was beautiful. That was really fun. Very much enjoyed. You love the beach. I love the beach very, very much. You struggle to eat meat. You love coconut cream pie. You need to know more about the trio. So you're just summing up our conversation, are you? Okay. All right. So you struggle to eat meat, all meat, or just any kind of specific meat? Number 1. coconut cream pie. Literally, it's the website is All Day I Dream About Food. That is not my website. This is her website. On Instagram, if you go down in my posts, you'll see a post of a picture of the cream pie. And I think I put her website in there. I think I did in the replies to people. It's not clickable though, but it's All Day I Dream About Food. And then just look up coconut cream pie. Phenomenal. Amazing. Amazing. Like I brought that to Easter and they just snarfed it up. What is that? What is the feel great system? I am not doing that. I don't think. No, the trio. So over 10 years ago, so I'm in my 40s and my mom will not stop talking to me about my sugars. Kirsten, do you go to the doctor? Kirsten, do you know where your sugars are at? My dad had died when I was 30. Kirsten, do you know, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not getting your sugars checked? Why aren't you doing this? And I didn't have an answer, but I had been insulin resistant for over 20 years at that point. And so you love her recipes. Yes, she's so good. Good night, magnesium kicking in. Good night, Julie. Have a really good sleep. Sleep well. Far into Saturday. Get all like caught up on all your sleep. And oh, Renee. Hi, Renee. Good to see you. Oh, that is so good. Good to see you. Okay, so she's just wondering, like, why am I not paying attention to my sugars? Because she can see that like my weight is increasing in my 40s, right? I mean, I was already not skinny, but it was definitely increasing. And she's like, she can see the writing on the wall. And I'm so grateful for her. She was excessively annoying at the time, but I'm so grateful because the truth is that I was just gliding through life. I was just not paying attention. And so when I started to take the trio, those are the 3 supplements that have the 3 ingredients that help with insulin sensitivity. And on Instagram, you have the benefit of going to the top of my Instagram page. Nobody else has this. I have to figure out how to create a reel around it. On Facebook, on one of my Facebook pages, there's a pinned interview about it. But anyway, on Instagram, there's a highlight bubble that says trio testimonies, and you can go read those. And I keep adding to those as much as I can. So you can go and read those. But the point being that when I started to use supplementation, I didn't understand why it was working for me. I just knew that it was working for me because it helped me. The immediate effects were that it helped me with sugar cravings and appetite control so that I really could change out my ingredients and my food, but I would not have been able to explain to you the science reason as to why it's working. So if you ever get into the group, the book face group, at the top of the group, go and see there's a masterclass pinned about it. Okay. And I did it in December, and I did it so that I could explain the sciencey reasons why it's working so that you can understand then why people's testimonies are numbers coming down, weight coming down, because that is a direct correlation. This is why it happens. And I'm telling you, you guys, girls, not guys, girls, I'm telling you, this is a key. Your insulin is a key to open up your cell to get to get your fuel into your cell. But when your key is broken and your insulin just keeps rising, and insulin is a fat storing hormone, the chances of you ever getting off of that hamster wheel, they're just not great if you are insulin resistant. Not everybody is. And you know what? Not everybody who is insulin resistant is overweight. It's just that the majority of people that are insulin resistant are overweight. So that really is who I talk to, because that's me. That's been my journey my whole life. So that's who I resonate with the most. But it is a key. And so once you can fix the key and you can start to bring things down like this, all of a sudden you can lose weight. And I know on TikTok, so I kind of have like a before and after, because that's the difference between insulin resistance not being taken care of and like I was able to finally go from a 2X down to a large. Like that's a big deal in my 50s after my cycle stopped. That's why I don't stop talking about this. That's why I keep going and talking about, because not only can you then bring inflammation down in your body, but you can change your size. You can feel better in the group. I do a challenge every month. And the reason why I do a challenge every month is because I'm very convinced that if every month you start out the beginning with some tools in your toolbox and some resources, and then you can nail that month, you can like really take that month and just like pound it into the ground. And then you can start again the next month. You can start to, like a train, you can keep putting cars attached to each other, and it'll take you all the way to the end of the year. And where will you be by the end of the year? You have to have some consistency. You have to have some discipline in the conversation, right? But you don't have to do it with shame and, oh, I'm such a loser and I don't have enough willpower and all of the different messages that have been given to you. You don't have to live with any of that. You can tell all of that to just shut up and sit down, because now you actually have an understanding. And what you did was you literally took a new pair of glasses. The new pair of glasses is called, OMG, I'm insulin resistant. That's why I feel like crap. That's why I can't lose weight. That's why I ache all over my body, or I'm not sleeping. I'm waking up at 3 a.m, or my energy just crashes like crazy. And all of a sudden I just want to go into like a nap coma on the floor, in the sun. Like that was me in my 30s. I didn't understand. Like I wanted to nap on the living room floor in the sun. All of those things. Oh, new lenses, new glasses. Any other conversation is voided. It's deleted. You hit the delete button and you start completely new with a whole new journey of, okay, I'm going to better understand insulin resistance, because that's actually a key to where I'm going to be by the end. That rhymed. That's funny. Where I'm going to be by the end of 2024. Okay, let's go. That's what I love to do for other people, because I feel like had I understood that earlier, I would not have struggled as much in my mind about with the tracks that were in my mind. Does anybody else have tracks in their minds? Things that you say. Karen, thank you for the follow. I apologize. I'm not keeping you guys up on saying thank you about stuff. Thank you so much. #1 gifter badge. You guys are awesome. It's so great to see you too, Renee, if you're still on. That is so fun. That is so fun. Yeah, I'm back on TikTok. What happened was, just FYI. So I did a lot on TikTok last fall, and then basically Instagram and Facebook went boom, and life got really crazy, and I had to gain like control of my universe. So I'm grateful. I am not complaining. Business is very, very good. I'm very grateful. But I'm just saying that I was like, I have got to get back to a lot of where some of this kind of started. TikTok gives an opportunity to have new people view your content more regularly. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. So I'll just give my opinion, and people can either resonate with me or not. And I just trust that God will bring me the people I'm supposed to be connected to. How does that sound? So anyway, so that's really kind of the fullness of it. I am completely grain-free. I'm completely sugar-free. You can always go to, Terry, thank you for the follow. I so appreciate you. You can always go to my site if you want to and find I have free stuff. I have a free Facebook group that has a free masterclass pinned at the top. I have a free PDF that has some recipes in it. I have a couple of free videos on there. One is for the egg white protein powder bread that I make. It's a Maria Emmerich, and that's grain-free. And then there's a sugar-free chocolate pudding video. So if you're looking for a couple of tutorials, those are my faves. And then if you do get into the group, I do a video recipe every month with the challenge. So we've racked up a bunch because I started last June. So there are a few things. And we never did talk about, I don't know if you answered about the meat. That's okay though. Charbear, are you still here? You can let me know if you're still here. But otherwise, because there are, like, it made me think about the fact that Maria Emmerich makes this carnivore bagel, and they're really quite amazing. And it's a really great way to be able to eat meat in just a different form. And it's very satisfying, very happy. Oh, thanks, Renee. Renee. Again, it's so good to see you. So anyway, so that's really kind of my story for tonight. And so I want to say this, like before I jump off, if anybody needs anything from me, like my DMs are always open. There's also if you go to my site, which is my first last name.com, kirstenliebelt.com. Oh my gosh. Okay. I have to read this testimony. But okay, so you can go to my first last name.com, and you can get all of the free things, and you can look and see what the trio is. And there's a phone number at the top, and you can text me. Okay. So don't ever feel like you can't like just interrupt my world and ask me a question when I'll pop into those texts every, for sure, at least once a day. And for sure, but I'll try to answer those, especially when I get off of a live, I go and I answer those. KirstenLiebelt.com. So it's my first and last name.com. And if you're on Instagram, on the top of the profile, it's there. If you're on TikTok, on the top of the profile, it's there. On Facebook, yeah, but I don't know if it's clickable. So that's why you can say things to me in the comments and I can answer you on Facebook. Like you could say group and I'll get you the group. You could say trio and I'll get you the trio. You could say PDF. And I can help you with that. Okay, so this is the testimony. Thank you for sharing. Because actually it's Testimony Friday, and I forgot to bring the testimony I was going to give. Hi, Kirsten, only 2.5 days into the trio. My hands would hurt so bad in the morning, and I was shocked to find that as I woke up this morning, the pain in my hands is pretty much gone. That's amazing. So tell me what you think that's attributed to in your mind, because I don't want to make stuff up. I want to know what you think. So it's all meat, tuna, salmon, beef, and especially chicken. Okay. Have you ever tried a carnivore bagel? Super curious. Have you ever tried a chicken crust for pizza? Have you ever done anything like that where you've taken chicken and you've like canned chicken and you've used maybe, I'm trying to think canned chicken, eggs. I'm trying to think if they put cheese in there. I don't think necessarily they do. And they literally spread it out on parchment paper and make it super thin as like a pizza crust. I would love to know if you've ever tried that. And I don't know if I can see all of my comments. Hold on. But that is amazing. I love the testimony. You guys, I love the testimonies. It's why I keep coming back. It's why. I think the insulin resistance is causing incredible inflammation in my body. Hot flashes have nearly gone away as well. I slept so good last night. I'm so excited for what's next. I'm going to try not to cry. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that. I need to. Hey, Carrie. You can't hear me. I want to screenshot that. All my devices are being used. Hey, Carrie, can I use your phone for a second? No, but you can give the canned chicken, egg. Okay, so do this. Go in Google. Go in Google keto chicken pizza crust, something like that. And you're going to find different ways of doing that. Go in Google. I want to take a picture of this right here, her testimony. Go and Google, you're in the camera. I mean, you can be in the camera. My husband's very handsome. Would you like to meet my husband? He says it's okay. He's on the radio. I'm going to take a picture of that. Thank you for sharing. And daughter of the King of Kings, will you please remind me of your name? I know I'm going to kick myself once you tell me. I try to keep it all straight with people, with people's handles. So anyway, so keto chicken pizza crust and keto carnivore bagels. That's another way that you're using meat and eggs and you're like, I'm trying to remember everything that she puts in there. Like, I know many people make them, but, and then also too, to get high protein, you don't have to always do meat. You can also do the egg white protein powder bread. Kathy, yes, Kathy. Okay. Yay. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. Have you told your daughter? Have you told your daughter? I'd love to know if you've told her. That's so good. Okay. The egg white protein bread, if you have not tried something like that, I know that these things sound different. I know that they do. I understand. I can't, I, nobody's more surprised than I am. But I'm just telling you, when people get super creative, like they've been getting with ingredient trade outs and creating different kinds of recipes like this is more doable than you think. At the top of the page here on Instagram, I do have a pinned, the bread is pinned tutorial. There's a pinned tutorial. Go look at that. See if that's something you would ever give a try. Let me know. She knows and she's excited. I'm so glad. Let's journey together, man. That is just makes me so happy. And again, you know what? I rely so heavily on your testimonies. And the reason why is this. So for a really long time, even though I knew what was happening to me and for me, and even though I had local customers, and one was specifically a male who called one of the products he called them his diabetes pills. Even though I had things like that happening in my world, I was very hesitant to share because I am not type 2. And so I thought, how can I share that? I can only talk to insulin resistant people who are not type 2 yet. Now, that's a large portion of my customer base because they want to lose weight because they understand the insulin connection. And so they're like, oh, not only can I avoid type 2 diabetes, but I can lose weight. Really? Like they get excited, right? And then they're happy. But what ended up happening is I ended up getting testimony after testimony after testimony. And that's why you can see them in IG. You can see them at the top in that testimonial bubble of people saying, OMG, my sugars just dropped 30 points. I just lost 14 pounds and I couldn't lose 1 pound in the last 3 years, even on keto, even though my A1C came down, even though I'm on berberine, inositol. Those are the types of things that were happening. So I relish the testimonies because the testimonies, they're your stories. They're your stories. And I think that there's just enough inside of me that's really ticked off at the medical matrix and everything that I saw with my dad, my brother, my mother, other people. I'm just mad enough that it keeps me talking because we have so been lied to. We've been so deceived. We've been driven by propaganda. We've so been driven. They literally paid off studies. I mean, you guys, I've got weird stories. Like Dr. Ansel Keys, who did the study saying that fat was the problem, at the same time that there was a British scientist who did a study that said sugar was the problem. And Dr. Ansel Keys is the one that won out here. And he was at the University of Minnesota. I live in Minnesota. This is how we ended up getting all of this low fat craze that sent us into obesity fantasy land. Actually ended up staying at his villa in Italy back in the 90s after my dad died. Like, I've got really bizarre connections to the fact that I'm super passionate about this. Like, I didn't even know it as I was staying there. Like, I didn't understand any of that. But my dad had just died. Like, this is just weird stuff, connections, weird stuff. My dad dies in July of 1995. I am in May of 1996 in the villa of the guy who created the whole concept that fat was bad and the sugar industry paid for the stuff. Nah, don't get me started. You want to get off, Matt? So you're definitely going to Google keto recipes. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and willingness to help people feel better. Absolutely. Absolutely. And ask me any questions that you want in my DMs if you want to connect that way too. Yep. Yep. Because I do have people, again, by testimony, never by claim. I have people that have told me, it's probably in the highlight bubble on IG, I'm off of one of my 2 meds from taking those 3 supplements. So just telling you, you can always come and ask me questions. So anyway, I don't think I'm missing anything over there. Oh, you're still really interested in a continuous glucose monitor? Has anyone shared one? There was conversation in the group. I don't remember. I don't think I can look that up with the device that I have here right now. But there was some conversation. Somebody asked a question, and there were some people that answered the question. So you can go and you can. You have experience with them, Renee. Do you know? So she wants a continuous glucose monitor, and she wants to know if you can purchase one without having diabetes and being on insulin. And so, like, people are having a hard time getting prescriptions. And so people are wondering how to get them and how not to pay a fortune for them. And I do think that they're a wise investment, even if they do cost, because again, if you can step away from the morning news, if you can step away from the latest headline that pops up on your phone from Apple News, if you can step away from the noise and the chaos and the Cheerios is heart healthy BS, you can actually wade through that chaos and have your body tell you the truth. So I feel like they're very beneficial. I've just never used one. People can buy them, but it wouldn't be covered by insurance. They are worth it though. So which one would you recommend, Renee, if you had a thought process on that? I would love to know. Some people were saying NutriSense is a brand, but again, I've not used one. She'll pay out of pocket, she says. Okay, what do we got, girls? What do we got? Yeah, interesting. More and more people are doing it, and I'm so excited for that. I have thought many times about doing it for myself, to be honest. I've thought, because there are people who are on, I just don't think I'm willing to commit to eating things that are off my plan. This is really the honest truth. The way that I eat, I feel so amazing all the time. I'm not willing to go against that. So there are a couple of guys on TikTok, and they have continuous glucose monitors, probably NutriSense. You could probably go through their name and buy one, and however much it is, and it's probably a lot. I don't know anything about that, but they test foods regularly. And so what they do is they'll eat something, and then they'll 2 hours later, and they're testing all of these theories. Starch resistant rice, when you put it in the fridge and then you eat it again, they test it. Sourdough bread made from the store, they test it. Sourdough bread made from scratch, from an actual sourdough starter. They're testing everything. They're testing all the conversations. Now, they're men that, to my understanding, neither one of them have insulin resistance, the ones that I've seen, which then makes their results even more important. Because when you're insulin resistant, your results are even worse. That's a great question. I do not know what my A1C is because I've never had to track it. When I started to turn back around my sugars and issues in my 40s, because I'm 59 now, I was able to do that with targeted supplementation. And I know that my sugars are good because I went into surgery. I had all sorts of things done for myself that I had, whatever. I had a car accident. So I knew that so I did my targeted supplementation, the trio that I talk about all the time. Did my trio, and I'm doing that. At the same time, I'm actually taking adaptogenic herbs, which can also be helpful. That's another conversation. That's the purple packet. I'm doing that, and I go into surgery. And so all of my labs by that point were good. Now, needing to change what got me into the pickle to begin with started my journey of trading out my foods. So now my foods have only gone more and more and more blood sugar friendly. Like there's no way I have a sugar issue, and it's all diet related. So, but that's a great question. And I love that. It's very backwards. I know. You're going to say something super true, aren't you, Kathy? It's very backwards to require people to already have diabetes and have a continuous glucose monitor. Yeah, you think? When it would make more sense to have one and use it to prevent. This is how ridiculous. Yes. And this is why you have to become your own advocate. You have to, if you resonate with me, it's probably because you resonate with the idea that I am not necessarily very trusting of the process, because the process is we want you on meds. And our only answer to you is ever going to be either another one to add to your lazy Susan or to up the dose of the ones that you have. That's always going to be our answer. Right? So I'm not a fan of that. It is inexcusable, in my opinion, that we are not having as standard procedure fasting insulin tests being done, as opposed to only blood glucose tests, because you can be insulin resistant for years before it shows up in your blood. I know the medical community wants us ill. Yes, I know. I pretty much just said that. Yes, I know. It's bad. It's bad. And you know what? Do you want to know why I'm here? I'm here because I know that there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people who are done. They are done. They are like, game over. I'm going to become my own advocate. And I feel like the whole shutdown woke people up on a whole nother level. No matter what your thoughts are on anything specific, it doesn't matter. Everybody went, okay, whoa, wait a minute. I got to actually even know what I believe or what I think or what my research is or what article did I read or who did I talk to or who died around me. Like, we all have now these collective experiences. And so it's easy for us to now go, I was a little more inched towards that a long time ago when I had my shoulder surgery. I go in, I'm 50 years old. 6 months later, I still don't have a cycle. It literally threw me into menopause. I'm only 6 months into not having a cycle. And I said to the doctor, female, why in the world would surgery kick me into menopause? And she was just like, there is so no connection. I mean, she was just so obnoxiously dismissive of my sentence. And I was like, what? Like, that was my first wake-up call, to be really honest. But I feel like my whole life has kind of been a little bit of, what's going on? Like, why is my dad on all these medications and now he's dead and they didn't do anything for him? Like, I've always been questioning because things were happening around me. And then when the shutdown came, before that, because my brother was in a lot of medical facilities before he passed in 2020. He did not die of Rona. He was in a lot of medical facilities in Minnesota, which is the Mayo Clinic capital of the world, right? Like, we're supposed to be amazing. And I went, oh my God, we're so not amazing. I thought we were amazing and we aren't. Hold on, I want to read this one. Thank you for the follow, Gigi. I love your name. Okay, so this is what I'm hearing on CGMs. Cigna insurance will not cover them without a type 2. Yep, type 1 or 2. Blue Cross Blue Shield does not cover without the prescription. Yeah, it's all insurance. Thank you so much for telling us that, Danielle. I appreciate that. The Libra 3 continually checks your blood sugar. The Libra 2, you have to scan it to check it. So the Libra 3 is a continual glucose monitor. The Libra 2, you have to scan it to check it. And then you're saying, that's totally me. totally untrusting the medical community. You're losing your eyesight. I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. That's just the reality of this. I feel like, the more that I started to talk to people, like in my DMs, I had one lady say to me at one point, she said, I'm so angry because I went to the doctor and he said, oh, you have fatty liver. And he chuckled and said, who doesn't? So do I. And she said she never went back because that was so mortifying to her. And I'm thinking, that is extraordinarily mortifying. Why we are glamorizing the overconsumption toxicity of carbohydrates in our nation when people are sick and losing their eyesight, and nobody, like, come on, I'm just an Italian girl, you guys. I'm not a doctor. Like, why do I know stuff about insulin resistance? What the heck? Are we supposed to go to our trusted professionals on this stuff? I haven't changed my thoughts literally in 15 years now because I haven't found anybody who can actually have a normal conversation with me. It's really stunning. It's very concerning. People need to become their own advocate. Totally. You've stopped using the medical system altogether. Mm-hmm. Oh, what about the surgery? Do you think caused to be thrown you into menopause? Just curious. I don't know, Kathy, completely. It was very shocking to me to find out that the majority of women, and I feel like maybe there's an estrogen conversation in here that I'm not privy to. The majority of women who get frozen shoulder, which mine froze after surgery, are of menopause age right around 50 years old. I've even mentioned that to doctors and they go, what are you talking about? I'm like, I YouTubed it. I'm like, this is bizarre. So since then I have found, like, because functional medicine is becoming more and more, functional medicine is becoming more important, it's more of a conversation, but it's also more money. So that's why I'm like, listen, you don't need to have a $1,200 shoddy shot. How about let's just talk about some targeted supplementation and see where we can go with that, because it can be a different conversation for people. Like you just said, your hands are not hurting and you've only been on the trio for 2.5 days. Like, yes, your inflammation is going down already. That's how this works. Okay. There's you don't have insurance because you you don't trust them at all. I understand that, Kathy. Okay, so your type 1 son uses the Dexcom 7. Here's another conversation. Uses the Dexcom 7. It is close, but doesn't match a finger stick. But so necessary for a type 1 that struggles to control highs and lows. The Dexcom allows you to share with one person to help. Okay, so that's our third conversation on that. This is very helpful, you guys, across all these platforms. This is super helpful. I really appreciate this because there are more people that want to, have all of these pieces for their life. A1C, insulin, glucose should be a part of standard care. Yes, Danielle. You have to be your own advocate. We dealt with so many side effects when following the doctor. I know, Renee. It's ridiculous. And you know what? This is the deal. This is where I come in and I say something like this. This is not rocket science. They've just made us think that we have to have, as though it's gospel, a certain protocol. But the protocol is faulty. So we're talking about something that has serious implications. Don't get me wrong. Eyesight, right? People lose limbs. People have all sorts of issues. People lose kidney function. My dad was on dialysis for 2 years, throwing up every day he had dialysis. Serious implications. However, on the front end, before it gets there, insulin resistance in its natural habitat, in its natural state, in its beginning stages. This is not terminal. Why aren't we being given help when it's at the beginning stages of, oh, me? You know, Kirsten, you were gestational diabetic with your first baby. What you need to know about that is that now you are 7 times more likely to become type 2 diabetic. And so I highly recommend that you consider a different way of, charting your own health and eating a certain way. None of that was ever, nobody ever said, literally, I can't even tell you how not one doctor, not one nurse, not one midwife, not anybody ever said anything to me. The only thing that was ever said to me after I gave birth to a 9-pound, 13-ounce baby was they pricked my finger. They said my sugars were fine and I was good to go. Nobody told me anything. And then when I looked to see what my dad was eating and told to eat on the standard American diabetes diet, it is the opposite of what we should be eating. The opposite. If I sit here right now and I eat a steak and an egg, my blood sugar will go, If I sit here right now and eat what my dad ate, which is a bowl of Cheerios and skim milk, my sugars will go, shoom. I'm exhausted. That's how that's going to go. So you tell me why they're telling you and all of us that we can have 150 grams of carbohydrates a day as a type 2 diabetic. Is the insanity high enough yet? Are we tired enough yet? Are we exhausted enough yet? Are we fighting our weight long enough yet? And how many times are people saying, oh, by the way, insulin is a hormone? Come on. This is ridiculous. Which food does not spike insulin? Okay, there's a couple of conversations here. Hold on just a second. Kathy, you're so awesome. Oh, you know what? I don't need it anymore. Don't worry about it.
You sure?
Yep, I'm totally sure. Okay. You don't have it. Okay, yep. You appreciate thank you, Kathy. Thank you for saying that. Seriously, it's my pleasure to be able to help people. The food pyramid is upside down. Yes, it is. 100%. Had not had insulin in 2 days and your blood sugars were 135 last night. Is that good for you? It was because of me that you tried this. Tell me what you're saying. Tell me what you're saying. Because of me that you tried what? Specifically, I would love to know. Okay. I drink tea with jaggery in the morning. Tell me what jaggery is, or if that was just a typo. Will it harm in a day? I need to know what that is so I can answer that. Which food doesn't spike insulin? Okay, I'll go there. So I focus on, what's that? Do you think you know what it was?
What?
You said
Jaggery?
something. Yeah.
Jittery.
I thought you meant something that you put in it. No? Okay. I'll let her answer. Thank you, though. Meat, eggs, full-fat dairy, vegetables, for the most part, greens. Yes, spaghetti squash, because that's yellow, and I get it. But for the most part, it's easier just to say that. I mean, yes, an onion is white and garlic is, white, but other than onion, garlic, spaghetti squash, whatever, green peppers are green. But so I had yellow and red peppers tonight. But none of the starchy vegetables, none of the potatoes, no corn, no sweet potato, none of that. For fruit, I really am very only berries. Berries are very low in sugar, and fruit is an issue with a lot of people. My dad ate oranges like they were going out of style as a type 2 diabetic. Because you're supposed to be healthy, you're supposed to eat all your fruit. Well, it was literally killing him. Thank you, Danielle, for following me. Okay. You still have Dawn phenomenon, but it'll improve. Okay, so it's been a while since I've been on TikTok. So tell me who you are, Mellow One, because I know that. Tell me who you are. And then tell me what you changed that has changed everything for you that I talked about. Okay. So I don't know, Neha. Tell me what you put in your tea so that I can answer that question if you're still on. And if you're not, that's okay, obviously. Susie, thank you for the follow. And you know, Don phenomenon, when I listen to Dr. Eric Berg, he talks about that and he says that Don phenomenon it can take like up to a year to heal. So I say that, but then I also want to then counter that with, so give your body time to heal. Number one. He also says that high blood pressure can take up to a year to heal. So just know that. But then I want to counter that with one of my favorite testimonies of a customer that's on the trio. I know people are coming and going like a lot on TikTok. So if I repeat myself, that's why. 3 supplements that have 3 ingredients that help with insulin sensitivity. And you can either text that to me, the number on my profile, or for you guys, you could put it in the comments and I'll answer that for you. Finds out she's diabetic 3.5 years ago. She has a stroke. Her A1C is 13. Has a stroke, gets her A1C down to like 6.9, cannot get her weight to budge even a pound, cannot get her morning sugars down, her Don phenomenon. What are you showing me? Am I frozen? She's over there? I see her on TikTok.
Melanie.
Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you for helping me with that.
That is my TikTok.
What's that? That is your TikTok? Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Starts the trio in September. Her morning sugars go from 180s down to the 150s in 2.5 months. And she loses 14 pounds. Now she's gone on to lose more and her sugars have gotten better, but that was the beginning of her journey. She was like, blew her away. So those are, if you click my face up here and then you click my face again here, that's my profile. And you'll see my link there. It's kirstenliebelt.com. It's my name, first and last.com. And on the second button, you'll see where the trio is. And they're literally all in a cart. But if you do that, I always want people to know, register with your name so that you can choose the perks and get points for your products. And I'll also send you a sample of the purple packet. Who doesn't want that? That's another conversation. That's exciting. But also, if where you live in the country, the glucose product, one of the 3, if that says it's temporarily out of stock, I have inventory. So I'm fixing that with everybody. And we've kind of been doing that a little bit. So we'll do a little bit of Venmo and I'll do a little bit of, like I've got that one right here, ready to go to a customer tomorrow morning. I'll literally put it in a bag with a label, blah, 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 and I'll mail it to you. So this is the glucose product that I have inventory if you see that it's out of stock. I just want to be the one to answer that for people. Like, I don't want to be like, well, geez, one is out of stock. And then you like, especially with TikTok, it concerns me because I can go off into algorithm land and you'll never see me again. If you don't follow me, you have to follow me so that, you know, you don't lose me, because that's what can happen. But I want to be able to solve that for each and every customer that needs that help. Okay. So anyway, there we go. Am I missing anything? Am I missing anything? Otherwise, I'm going to jump off, you guys. But again, make sure you reach out and you ask me questions. If you're on Instagram, go look at the testimonies in the highlight bubble right at the top. That's where you can get encouragement. You can get hope in your heart that you can actually, thumb is so funny, that you can actually Like you can get on a different path. You can put on a different pair of glasses. You can have different results. You can literally have maybe hope for the summer. Maybe like, oh, God, Kathy, just the fact that you're talking about how your hands aren't hurting only after a couple of days. Do you guys understand that gives you back function? When you can get your insulin and your sugars down, you get back function. And what function will afford you, and the reason why I started talking about the whole grain-free thought process is because you can't convince me to go back. None of that pasta means anything to me. None of that Italian bread means anything to me because I wake up and I don't ache. That's it's priceless. There is no price I put on that. I don't live on ibuprofen like I did in my 30s, and here I am 59 and I don't. And that I know is because I'm grain-free, sugar-free. I know that to be true. And so I don't know if I ever answered completely. Meat, eggs, full-fat dairy, greens, berries, nuts, seeds. Focus on protein more than anything else at every single meal and every single snack. And be grain-free, sugar-free. You also, okay, what you tell me now, Kathy. I also want you to know that my best friend and sister in Christ, Valerie, started the trio the same day that you did. She has a lot of pain due to inflammation. Do I know her? Did she get it from me? Caused by insulin resistance and Lyme disease. And she told me today also that she doesn't hurt. Shut the front door, Kathy. Are you serious? Are you serious right now, Clark? I'm not sure what to do with you, Kathy. Valerie, I know I did not have a Valerie come through my back office. Unless she can, she may have checked out as a guest. See if you can text her and ask her that. You guys make me so happy. You make me so happy. Now I know that you got the turmeric, Kathy. So did she get the turmeric too? Because that's really good on inflammation. That's so good. Oh my gosh, you guys are so fun. Yes, I'm serious. Did she buy it through me? I mean, I don't know how she would know to buy it from anybody else, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you guys, you're like doing the buddy system. I love that. You're doing the buddy system. See, it's much more fun. I always tell people, like, when you get into the group, grab a friend and do the challenge. Like, grab the trio. Get ready for the first week of May. We'll do a 5-day challenge. You can get started with everybody else and see what kind of results you can get to. You'll be ordering more. And let me know when you do, because if the glucose product is not in stock, I will help you. So I want you to know that. But yeah. So there you go. That's just crazy. Thank you for sharing that, Kathy. That really just means the world to me. And I'm so glad that you're sharing with your daughter, because I'm going to tell you something. You know, my mom, having died with dementia at 94, which was a year ago, dementia is called type 3 diabetes, insulin resistance of the brain. And I didn't know that 6 years ago when we started, 7 years ago now, when we started taking care of her and following that journey in and out of places, blah, blah, blah. But dementia is hard. And I just had a phone consult with somebody who actually, I met her online, total stranger. I've not met her in person, and yet she lives a half an hour away from me. How cool is that? I love that. And we were talking yesterday, and she's really paying attention to taking care of her body, right? Changing her ways. And she said it is hard because even as older people, we sit around and have cake. You know, we sit around, we socialize with a lot of sugar. And she's learning how to say no, and she's learning how to not apologize for that, etc. At least that's what I kind of felt like she was saying. And you know, what a gift that is. What a gift it is to your daughter to do the best you can with what you know, so that those years aren't so hard for so many. My mom didn't know. She had lost a kidney to cancer, And so she was told by the medical community that she should be careful about her protein. And that was the worst advice they could have given her, in my opinion, and I'm not a doctor. But now I've studied people like Dr. Ken Berry who have said, no, that's the connection is incorrect. And so what happened was she became a carboholic and ended up with dementia and type 2, and then dementia type 3. So she just went all in, and that's terrible. It's, and that was hard to walk that journey with her, so you are giving her such a gift. You have people ask me about this, so I'm going to see how this goes a little bit more, and I'm thinking about, yep. You know what, Kathy, let's chat about that. Yep, let's chat. Because that's actually what happens, right? Something happens to us that's really good, and then sometimes we do choose to build a business out of it, and you can do that. However, I will tell you that, for people who actually do want to build a customer base, you have to actually want to build a customer base. I'm going to put it that way. That's just the way that it is. That's no longer do direct selling companies have wholesale clubs. That's an FTC thing. And so you have to want to build a customer base, but I definitely help people build a customer base. Like, I know how to do that, right? And so that's great. But if somebody's like, I don't want to build a customer base, then you really do get a lot of perks as a customer. You get the free shipping, you get the points for your products. If you put it on a monthly auto ship, you get double the points. That gives you cash off of future orders. Like, you get the perks. So don't give up your perks. But I'm just telling you that so that you can be thinking about it through the proper lens. Put on the proper pair of glasses, and then we can chat. Because I'm telling you, this has been one of the most fulfilling things that I've ever done. And people don't have to build business like I do. That's just the way that is. You absolutely do not have to build business like I do. Obviously, I use social media a lot, but I've been creating content for about 6 years now. So having said that, like, I started with, a hormone conversation, and then I narrowed it down to the one hormone, insulin, because that really is the basis of a lot of my story. And some people don't want to use social media. So everybody gets to decide how they want their business to look. And I get to help them create that, whatever that is for them. So nobody should ever think they have to do it like, oh, I don't want to do what she does because I don't want to do social media. You don't have to. I will help you create it a different way if that is your choice. But anyway, you can always DM me about that too. If people want it, there's no shortage of people that need an extra income right now. Let's just put it that way. And if anybody's local in Minnesota, man, that would be so much fun. Then I get to see you all the time. But I meet people from all over the United States and Canada online. It's just been, well, all over the world. Somebody from Ireland reached out to me today. I can't sell in Ireland yet. There's a lot of differences in what governments will allow for ingredients. So that's where it shifts a little bit. You wish you lived near me, Renee. I do too. Remind me where you live, Renee, because I don't remember right now off the top of my head. I feel like I'm so fresh back to TikTok, like my brain is like, I mean, I was live a couple of times in the last week, but it hasn't been like I used to be. So yes. Oregon, that's right. Oh, yeah, that's not as close as it needs to be, Renee. It's not as close. But anyway, all right. Well, you guys have a really, really good night. And I will get back to you again now starting next week. And if in the meantime you have any questions at all, you want to know about the group, you want to know about the trio, you want to know about extra income, you want to know what else do we talk about? You want to know about any other supplements that I mentioned. I don't remember everything we mentioned. Sometimes I talk about the purple packet. If I mentioned that and that intrigued you, I don't remember we talked about that very much. Those are adaptogenic herbs and B vitamins. But yeah, or if you just want to reach out, I'm so blessed by people's comments. They'll text me and tell me just that they watch. I got somebody texting me today and they said, I watched your Instagram live and I have hope. I'm like, praise God. Like that's the whole point. So anyway, so if you need anything, my DMs are open, and you can always go to my website, kirstenliebelt.com, com, my first and last name.com, and that will give you the trio is there. There are other supplementations that you can look at. There's a free PDF. There's a free group jump in. There's a video tutorials to teach you how to make the egg white protein powder bread and how to make sugar-free chocolate pudding, which is high protein made out of egg whites. Like, you know, and then if you get in the group, if you're like, I do need a track to run on, and you grab the trio and you need me to fill part of your order, let me know that. That's another conversation. But then get ready for May, and let's do the challenge together at the beginning of May. So every month I do a challenge, every single month, 5-day challenge. It's what we do. So, all right. Have a really good night, you guys. Man, I was on for like ever on Instagram and Facebook. TikTok, this is normal. But you guys, this is not as normal. But this was so fun. So Kathy, stay in touch. Okay. I want to hear everything. I already screenshotted your testimony, and I'm so blessed by it. So you have a really good night. Okay. See you later. Bye, Kathy. Thanks for sharing. You're amazing. You are amazing.